today I will be presenting you some information about connectivity troubleshooting, and Marielle, she will support me in the background and she will look after the questions, which you can write down in the chat as usually. Marielle, hello to you as well.
Hi, Christina. Yes, so we welcome everyone here. We're glad you're here. Let's bring the energy. Yes. And remember, there will be a lot of specific details in this webinar because we're talking about troubleshooting. But obviously, as Christina will talk about later, we'll focus on the main issues, the main most common troubleshooting topics that we have. So you don't have to remember everything, but just try to keep in mind the main ideas. Then you can always go back and rewatch this webinar if you need so. So that's all, Christina.
Correct. Thank you very much, Marielle. Yes, Marielle, she gave you an introduction about 2 weeks ago about basics of technology, so that we actually understood why are there so many different Bluetooth protocols, why are there different connections. And now today, as Marielle mentioned, yes, we will dive a bit deeper and we would like to show you some tips really, which you can use later. You will get this presentation, you will get some guides as well. And later on, if you happen to come across a case we are maybe talking about today, then oh, I heard this in the webinar, and that's actually the meeting of what we would like to do today. Okay, let's start. So I'm almost certain that you have had experienced connectivity problems. You have heard from somebody who has had connectivity problems. Although I must say myself, whenever I am testing the hearing instrument, I have luckily been spared with these kind of issues. But many, many, many hearing aid users, which depend so much on the hearing aids every day and use it with their smartphones, they often do experience problems. So I'm having no doubts that somebody has reported a problem to me. Now, ask yourself if you were actually able to fix it. What did you do? Did you find out what the client has done with his phone? Did you try to reproduce it? Or, what could you do to solve the connectivity issues? And this is what we would like to help you today. Nowadays, there are more than 6 billion smartphone users worldwide, meaning that more than 85% of world's population owns a smartphone. Bluetooth connectivity issues are unfortunately quite common due to various factors such as physical and electronic interference, distance limitation, and also devices compatibility. Specific statistics on the number of people experiencing Bluetooth connectivity issues are not really available, but it is known that these issues are common concern. And with an increasing number of Bluetooth-enabled hearing aids and Bluetooth-enabled devices which are used worldwide, the likelihood of encountering connectivity problems also arises. Hearing aid users are part of this group because hearing aid users, they love to use their smartphone, they love to do maybe other Bluetooth devices. So there was a study made, the MarkTrack Study 11 survey. This is a large study which was conducted in the US in 2022. This study revealed that 91% of people with hearing difficulty own a smartphone. And today, more hearing aids are offering connectivity to smartphones and other devices. Now, how would you start troubleshooting connectivity issues? First of all, we should get familiar with our phones. We should get familiar with the phone menus. And for this, we would like to start in the first place to looking at the Apple iOS hearing devices and also to look at the menu of an Android phone. Let's first start with an iOS overview. Everybody of you who has already seen iPhone, you are certainly aware that the hearing aid device or the hearing device menu is located under Setting, Accessibility, Hearing Devices, and this is where the client will pair their hearing aids to the iPhone or iPad and where they can also make some adjustments. MFI devices is the menu called, or also hearing instruments. And this is where the client will pair the hearing aids with the iPhone and the iPad. Second important menu is play the ringtones. When this option is enabled, the client actually hears the ringtone directly in their hearing instruments. Then another important menu is the play system sounds. When this option is enabled, the client will hear notification coming from their iPhone directly into their hearing aids, for example, text messages. A menu which should you also remember is the audio routing. This is the option where the hearing aid user can select where the signal should go to or where the signal should not go to. Then we have another menu, which is control nearby devices and audio hands-off. These two options are for controlling the hearing aids which you are using or which your hearing aid user is using on other Apple devices and receiving audio from other connected iOS devices. We will have a look a bit more deeper into this in a few moments. Typical menu of an Android phone. The Android phone, which we show you in our presentation here, is a Google Pixel 7 Pro. Of course, depending on the Android smartphone the hearing aid user has, the user interface may look different. So be aware of this. If we tell you this option can be found there, that it may not be identical on all the phones. So what we are using is the Google Pixel 7 Pro. In the Android phone, also the hearing aid menu or the hearing aid device menu will be under Settings and Connected Devices. Media devices is where the client will see their hearing aid paired and can turn off streaming to the hearing instruments. Then we do have saved devices. Under saved devices, you can see a list of Bluetooth devices that are paired to your client's phone. So maybe he has other devices paired, which is also using, and they would all be visible there. There is another menu, most likely this is the connection preferences. And in the connection preference menu, the client can set their preferences for different wireless protocols, including actual Bluetooth. Now let's start and have a look at the top connectivity issues. Our demand group, we do have a customer happiness team, and in this customer happiness team, issues are reported. So in the customer happiness team, the following issues have been the most frequent connectivity issues. First of all, we do have hearing aid disconnections. Hearing aid disconnections, including one hearing aid disconnects, multiple disconnections, or maybe also difficulty in pairing the hearing instruments. Second, connectivity issues with multiple devices. This would include clients with multiple devices paired to their hearing aids. So maybe they have a tablet and a smartphone paired to their hearing aids. Also, a frequent issue was the audio routing. So the audio is actually not going where the client would like it to go. And another frequent issue was that the phone of the volume, that the volume of a call is too low or unclear. So these are mainly the 4 classes or the 4 top issues we will be looking at. So have you heard these complaints before? My hearing aids don't connect to my phone. My hearing aids keep losing connection, or only my right and my left hearing aid connect. Hearing aid disconnections are a very common issue. Your client may experience issues connecting their hearing aids to their devices. The hearing aids may disconnect from their devices, or only one hearing aid may connect to the devices. So let's, in the first place, look at steps to take that may help with these kind of connection issues. For iPhone users, iOS disconnections can usually be solved using the following steps. First, toggle off Bluetooth and toggle on Bluetooth again. As a first step, your client should try to switch on and switch off Bluetooth on their iPhone. If this does not work, they should try to restart their hearing aids to force a reconnection. Second, a possibility is also to reboot the hearing aids, to restart the hearing aids. If the hearing aid wearer has a pair of rechargeable hearing aids, then the instrument can be turned off by holding the lower push button on Alpha XT or earlier hearing aids, or the push button on Encanta on the hearing aids for 3 seconds, wait a second, and then hold the same push button again for 2 seconds to turn them on again. Most easy is this for rechargeable hearing aids if the charger is in the area, in their proximity, that the client just can turn them on and off, inserting and removing them from the charger again. And if the hearing aid has traditional disposable battery, your client can restart them by open the battery door. So these were just a few points to remind you how you can actually restart the hearing aids. Also very important is that the hearing aid user should check for other paired iPhones, iPads, or Macs. If your client has an iPhone, iPad, or Mac that is signed into the same Apple ID, it can also happen that this device is taking over the connection of both or one of the hearing aids, causing it to disconnect from the iPhone. If this is the case, your client should switch on and off Bluetooth, as we have seen before, under settings Bluetooth, on the devices they are actually not using with the hearing aids, and then start streaming sound on the device that they want to use with the hearing aid to bring the connection back again. So it means if the hearing aid user would like to use it with the iPhone, then he should switch off the connections on the iPad or other devices and then only use the connection on the iPhone to bring the streaming back. There is one difference where you should not switch off Bluetooth, and this is if you are having issues or if you are having also your hearing aids connected to the Mac. If you switch off Bluetooth on the Mac, this could also disconnect other devices, such as the wireless mouse or the keyboard. Instead, on the Mac computers, users can press the speaker icon on the top right corner of the menu bar and change to the Mac speakers under Output. And this will avoid that all the Bluetooth devices are disconnected, but it will only disconnect the hearing aids from Mac. There are some more tips which we can give you for disconnection with iPhone. One useful tip is always to repair the phone itself, so that the clients would totally switch off the phone and then switch it on again. Or also to repair the hearing aids with the phone. So it's also a good suggestion that the client can try to repair the hearing aids with the phone in the accessibility hearing device, my device menu. And then the hearing instruments which are connected will appear, pop up, and then just by selecting forget this device, the instrument can be unpaired and then they can be paired again. For Android disconnections, usually the following tips would help to prevent disconnections. Keep the hearing aids paired to only one device. Also for Android phone, it's ideal if the hearing aid user has only paired one device to the hearing aids, because in some cases having the hearing aids paired to more than one device can also cause some disconnections. As the hearing aid, they struggle actually to find out which device to connect on. Also, we should remove unnecessary Bluetooth pairings on the phone. Having other Bluetooth pairings on the phone can in some cases also interfere with connection between your client's hearing aid and phone. Therefore, we generally recommend keep as few as possible Bluetooth devices paired to the phone. You can remove pairings under Settings, Bluetooth, then tap the cogwheel arrow next to the name of the Bluetooth device you want to disconnect, and then tap Unpair. It's also very helpful to have the latest software update installed. Connectivity improvements may be provided through software updates. So please make sure that the phone has the latest update. Here are also some steps to check if the latest update has been installed, and this can be found in Settings. In Settings, we will find Software Update. Then we can scroll down to download and install and just follow the steps until the new software update has been totally installed. And there are some additional steps which we would like to recommend if all the previous recommendations fail. One also would be to switch on and off Bluetooth again. It can often help to switch it on and off on the phone to force a reconnection of the client's hearing aids. Or also reconnect again through the Bluetooth menu. Another fast way to reconnect with the hearing aids if the connection is lost to one or to both hearing aids is tapping the name of your client's hearing aids from the list of the Bluetooth devices in the Bluetooth menu. This can also be done if the disconnection happens in the middle of the streaming. So for instance, during phone calls or also during media audio in the phone. Another option is also, yes, to restart the hearing instruments. The instruments are restarted, as I have just mentioned before, either with the push buttons, with the charger, or a traditional hearing aid just by opening the battery door. Another possibility is actually also to restart the Sonic app. So depending on the hearing instruments you are using, either it can be the SoundLink 3 app for instruments Radiant SE and prior instruments, or the Remote Link 2 app for the new A1 instrument. So if you would like to restart the Sonic app, then just to close the app, swipe up from the button, hold and then let go, and then swipe up on the app. Then open the app again by tapping the app icon. And then another recommendation could be to repair the hearing aids through the Sonic app. You know that you can also reconnect the hearing instruments from the troubleshooting section inside the Sonic app. So as I say, again, depend on the hearing instruments the client is using. It can be the SoundLink 3 app or the Remote Link 2 app. And just to remind you, the troubleshooting section you will find in the app in the menu More, Help and Support, Troubleshooting. Then you can also reconnect and pair the instrument, and then you will get all the instructions what to do to repair the hearing aids and the phone from the app. Sometimes it may be helpful or it may be necessary for Android phones to clear the Bluetooth cache or the Bluetooth cache. The Bluetooth cache in Android phones is a list of all previously scanned paired connected devices. So each device which has had contact with the Android phone would be listed there. It can improve to the overall connection if we clear once the Bluetooth cache. And here is actually a guide how we can do this. And again, this guide refers again to the phone we are showing here, which is the Google Pixel 7. But maybe it will also look similar in other phones. So how would you actually clear the Bluetooth cache? First, we go to phone settings. Then we will tap apps, and then all tabs, they will actually appear. Then we go until we find show system. You will see a show system will actually here pop up. We click on show system apps. Then we scroll down until we see Bluetooth Legacy. We tap on Bluetooth Legacy, and then there will be on Bluetooth Legacy, you will see that there is like a force stop. So we will tap on force stop and then confirm it with OK. And after that, we will see the storage and the cache. It will open up, and then here we will find the menu Clear Cache. Now, tapping on Clear Cache will remove all the pairings, all the connection scanning which have been available in the smartphone. I just would like to mention that this option, Clear Bluetooth Cache, is not possible from Android versions 13 and newer. But for the previous version, this Clear Cache is actually doable, and it has shown to be useful in quite a few cases, because then the memory is clear and you can start repairing again. Now let's look at the next group of issues, which are actually connectivity issues with multiple devices. Like, for instance, my hearing aids work with my iPhone, but not with my iPad. My hearing aids are connected to my phone, but I would like to have the sound from my tablet. When your client connects more than one device to their hearing aids, issues with connection can actually arise. Because the hearing aids may pick up the audio from the device they are not using and are unable to get the signal from the device they are using. Now, what can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen? If your client pairs their hearing aid with more than one device in an iPhone, both maybe iPhone and iPad, for example, the connection for the hearing aid automatically switches from one to the other when the user does something that generates audio on the other device, or when the client receives a phone call. Now, for this Apple devices, they should be on audio handoff. Audio handoff is actually also audio like switching to if there are multiple devices connected. So audio hands-off should be active when various devices are both on iOS 16 or later, when they are signed in to the same Apple ID, and also when they are using the same wireless network. So if your client has various devices with these characteristics, then actually the audio handoff should be active. If audio hands-off does not smoothly work, then there are also some other possibilities. Then actually the hearing aid user can also turn off control nearby devices and the audio handoff in the settings. So here we see audio handoff can be turned off, and then also in addition control nearby devices. So if the control nearby devices, if this is not active, then actually the connection will focus on the smartphone. The turn off Bluetooth on other iOS devices, again, is not really recommended on Mac. Instead, from Mac, what we mentioned before, we should disconnect the hearing instruments in another way. And what we also should do, yes, it's always ideal to delete pairings from other devices, so then we are sure that if the hearing aid user would like to use the iPhone, that all other devices are unpaired from the hearing instruments. If the hearing aid user with an Android phone has issues with multiple devices, then usually they can be solved in the following way. First, we turn off Bluetooth on other paired devices which are connected. So the client should turn off Bluetooth on other paired devices if it is required for the client to be paired to more than one device, such as maybe he has a phone in private and he has a phone at work. So when he is at work, and then he should actually remove the phone for private use. In some cases, having the hearing aids paired to more than one device can cause some disconnections, as the hearing aids struggle to find out which device to connect to. Ideally, your client's hearing aids are only paired to one mobile device. Another possibility is also to remove unnecessary Bluetooth pairings on the phone. So if the hearing aid user has other Bluetooth devices paired, then also this can interfere with connection between the client's hearing aids and the phone. Therefore, we really recommend keep as few connection as possible to make it also easier for the audio signal to know which device should actually now be detected. Then now let's have a look at the audio routing issue. Audio routing issues are also something which happens very, very frequently. You know, my hearing aids are connected, but the sound is still coming out of the phone. Or my hearing aids are connected, but I get no sound at all. Sometimes the audio can be set to go where the client does not want it to go. For example, the client wants to stream a phone call to the hearing aids, but the audio is going through the phone speakers. And so in this case, we should always check the audio routing menus. The audio routing menu allows the client to select whether a call and media audio are always routed to their hearing aids, never routed to their hearing aids, or automatically routed. It's always a good idea to check this menu if your client is reporting that the audio is not going where it should go. This we do tapping on audio routing in the hearing aid device menu, and then the tap call audio or media audio, depending which audio you would adjust. So we have the audio for the phone and we have the audio for the playback media. We open the menu which we would like to verify, and then here we see that actually the audio routing preference. So we usually recommend to have it on automatic, but it can also always route to the hearing devices, or it can never route to the hearing devices if maybe your client has two phones and he does not want to use this phone with his hearing instrument. So very, very important. So very frequently, if audio routing issues are common, then these are the first things which you, or the first steps we should verify in the iPhone. Now, it can also be that during a call, your client does not get the signal where he would like to have it. So if this happens during a call, then the client can tap audio and then select if the call should go to their iPhone, speaker, or hearing aid. So to adjust the call routing, client taps audio, and then he can select between the iPhone, speaker, hearing aid, or maybe other devices which are paired. If the client is actually streaming media and he would like to change the audio during a media playback or during listening to music, then he can directly go to the Okay, I think I'm back. Then he can directly go to the control center by swiping down from top down to the bottom. And then he can tap on the screen and then he will see what media is playing. And then the client can actually select the audio routing if it should be on the iPhone, on the hearing instruments, or wherever he would like to use it. With Android phone, also here again, it looks a bit different. So if the client would change the routing during a phone call, then the client can tap audio and can then select if the call should go to their phone, speaker, or hearing aid. And if the client has another Bluetooth device that can also have an output sound, they can also select that device. So as we see during a call, tap audio, and then select between phone, speaker, and hearing aid. In Android smartphones, if the issue occurs during media playback, the client can swipe down from the top of the screen to access the menu. And then they will also tap the media that is playing. And the client can select the audio routing also here, if it's phone speaker, hearing aid, or any other external device if one is detected. So you see this function is pretty similar between Android smartphone and an iPhone. Now, the last very frequent connectivity issue I would like to talk about is now the phone volume. The hearing aid user receives a call and the volume is much too low, or I cannot hear on my phone. If a call arrives, I cannot really understand. So hearing aid users may experience phone volume issues, even if everything is connected properly. This may happen. What would you recommend for iPhone users? For phone call volume issues with iPhones, the client should first verify that the phone is routed through the hearing aids. And this can be done by tapping audio and make sure that the hearing aids are selected. If the hearing aids are selected, your client should adjust the volume up using the side buttons on the smartphone in the first place. The hearing aid user should also make sure that the hearing aids are not muted. They may have had the hearing aids muted for streaming audio and forgot to unmute them. So that's also always important to double check. And also the phone volume can easily be adjusted in the fitting software in the accessory menu in Expressfit Pro for Radiant SC and previous instrument, or in the new Oasis Next for the A1 instrument. So there in the accessory menu, you have all possibility to fine-tune or personalize the sounds for smartphone, TVA and sound clip. I'm sure you already know this, but in case you do not remember it, this is always worse if your client complains about too soft sound, that we would double check the software in the as well. And for volume issues with Android phone, also the client should in the first place also check if the instrument are routed, if the phone is routed to the hearing aids and not through another device. And this can be done again by tapping audio and making sure the hearing aids are selected. If the hearing aids are selected, of course, the client should adjust the volume up using the buttons on the side. And of course, the hearing aid user again should also confirm that the instruments are not mistakenly muted. And you also have the option, of course, for Android phones to personalize the sound in the software. Now, there were actually some issues which we have experienced or which we have heard of since the launch of the latest sonic hearing aids with hands-free communication and LE audio. So there were some specific connectivity issues, and we think it would be interesting to share this information with you in case you would go to hear about similar issues. Okay, so one issue which actually has been reported was about hands-free communication. So which means noise at the far end during hands-free phone calls. So there is no good sound when the client does a hands-free phone call. The person receiving the hearing aid can experience more background noise, or the noise can sound robotic with certain phones. Solution is that the hearing aid user should end the call and make a new phone call, and then maybe go to an area which is a bit quieter when using hands-free communication. If the sound quality is very bad, then the hearing aid user should turn off Bluetooth and just switch to a normal phone call. Another issue which was reported was that the sound quality was poor for the hearing aid user during a phone call. So the hearing aid user himself, he could not really understand the the conversation. So for these kind of issues, we would recommend that the hearing aid user moves the phone closer to the hearing instruments and he checks the input options and also the routing and make sure that the iPhone is set to automatic when he is using an iPhone. Then another issue has been reported about the new function which we have introduced with Radiant SE and Sonic A1, which is this double tap control function, which means the hearing aid user only has to double tap in order to answer or take a phone call. So it may occasionally happen that the hearing aid users, if they double tap, that this feature is not working for taking or hanging up phone calls. Or like the double tap function or even the push button function does not work for Microsoft Teams calls. And what if the double tap function does not work on one hearing aid, then what the hearing aid user can do, he can try to tap on the other side to maybe see if the other side would accept the double tap function. Or he can take the call and hang up the phone, just losing the phone in a normal way. Or it is actually a fact that Microsoft Teams does not work with LE Audio yet. And this includes the double tap function and the push button function. So if your client's reporting that these functions are not working when receiving Microsoft Teams calls, then yes, this is actually the case. Then there was another issue which was not directly related to connection issues for the hearing aid user, but yet it was still related to connection. And this was that the client has seen a wrong battery time remaining in the app. So the client has maybe freshly charged the hearing aid, he looks at his app and he sees that the battery time remaining is not accurate. Maybe it's different between one side and the other side. Or it may also be that after charging, the hearing aid users may see that inaccurate high battery percentage. And there is an explanation for this, and the explanation is that it takes the hearing instruments up to 8 minutes per side to be actually updated with this information. So worst case, the hearing aid user, if he has a binaural fitting, worst case, it may take 15 minutes until the hearing aid user then sees the correct remaining battery time in the app. So if the client reports wrong battery time, just tell him that he should wait some time and then only report it back again as an error if it would not change after, let's say, maximum 15 minutes. Another issue which was reported was that the hearing instruments, they were in the charger and they did stream, but there was no audio. So yes, we know that now, especially with A1, the hearing instruments, they also can be even connected in the charger. And it is a fact then when the hearing instruments, they are actually in charger, there is no audio, but they look like they are streaming. So just easy if we would like to hear the audio or if the hearing aid user would like to hear the audio, just remove the hearing instruments quickly from the charger, listen to them, and while he puts them on, the hearing instruments will be fully functional again. Now, as a bit of summary of everything which we have talked about now during this webinar, we would like again to feature on a few points and see what we can actually do to optimize the end user experience for connectivity. And mainly, we refer to the issues which we have discussed before. So if the hearing aid user has other Bluetooth devices enabled at home, and we do have a lot of Bluetooth devices. We have in various devices at home, we have even more Bluetooth devices in the office. And all these devices, they can cause poor connections, they can cause disconnections, or they can cause interference problems. Therefore, we would say rule number one, disable Bluetooth on all other devices which are paired, or disable Bluetooth on devices which are not used, to make sure that we have a good connection and no interference. And another fact is actually that the Bluetooth signals, they do not travel well through or around the human body because our human body is full of liquid. This means that if you carry your phone in the back pocket or in a bag, the Bluetooth signal may not reach the hearing aid. If using connectivity devices outdoors, where it is not possible for Bluetooth signal to bounce off anything, it is recommended to keep a line of sight between the phone and the hearing aid, which means to keep the hearing aid and the phone in a line as direct as possible. Therefore, we recommend for best connectivity experience, carry the phone in the front of you. For instance, maybe carry it in the front. We can hold it in the front, or carry it in the front pocket of a trouser, maybe in the front pocket of a shirt, but not in the back. So this is another rule for best connectivity. Carry the phone as close as possible, ideally in front. Then, as we have just discussed, the environment can influence the signal transmission. So reflective surfaces can benefit audio signal transmissions. The Bluetooth signal has a transmission range of about 20 meters, and it can be reduced or it can be impeded by walls. So there may be difficulties with Bluetooth connection between two different rooms. And therefore, also another rule is keep the smartphone as close to you as possible. And last but not least, when a device such as a smartphone is paired and connected to two different Bluetooth devices at the same time, the smartphone may not send the signal where you want it to go. A good example is like here we see in the car, a person is driving in the car. There should be a connection between the smartphone and the hearing aids, as well as the Bluetooth car stereo. So maybe the client would like, if a call arrives, maybe the client would like to have the call in the car and not through the hearing instrument. So to make sure that the smartphone connects to the Bluetooth of the car and not the hearing aid, then put your hearing aids in the Bluetooth off mode to disable the Bluetooth function. And then it will make sure if a call comes in to the car, it will be routed directly to the Bluetooth in the car and not to the hearing aids. So how do we switch off the Bluetooth in the hearing aid? Previously, it was called also the airplane mode. So we just push the lower button or the bottom of the hearing aids for about 7 seconds. And then we hear, I think, 7 beeps. And then actually the Bluetooth is disabled. Okay, now with this, I would like to see if some questions have come in, Mariel.
Yes, Christina, thank you. So we do have one question. The person was saying, in order to work on the Android phone, the Android version must be more than 11, right? Okay, so whoever asked this question, I'm not sure if I got your whole question, But just to make it clear, if you want to benefit from direct one-way streaming using the ASHA protocol, the Android devices needs to have an Android 10 OS operating system, and the Android device also needs to be ASHA compatible with the ASHA protocol. So these are two requirements. But when we're talking about two-way streaming using the LE audio protocol, then of course that is when the Android device needs to have an Android OS of at least Android 14, and the device also needs to support the LE audio protocol. So these are two of the requirements, and it depends on the functionality that you want. You require a higher Android OS version, which is 14, for hands-free or two-way communication. So I hope that answers your question. And then there's another one, Christina. It's just a comment, but maybe if you have something to add, feel free. So the message is, hi there. Even if we use all these adjustments to increase the phone call volume, the volume is, for a majority of clients, still too soft.
So I'm just wondering here with this question if this also includes the setting in the software. Because in the software, we can increase the volume 9 decibel max. So it would be interesting to know if, yes, this statement also includes the maximum changes or the maximum adjustment in the software.
Yes, I totally agree, Christina.
So,
And yes, if I may add something, I did have a few clients before who had these issues. A lot of them were using custom hearing aids to have this hands-free phone calls. And it certainly helped when I actually taught them how to mute the microphone whenever they're having a conversation with their phones, with another person using their phones.
correct,
So
Mario.
muting. Mhm.
Yes, because also in the accessory menu, we can not only, as you mentioned, not only increase the volume of incoming call, but if the hearing aid, we can also, yes, correct, decrease the level of, for instance, the other side, or we can decrease the level of both microphones so that whenever a hearing aid or a call comes in, that the hearing aid user, he can really focus on the call. So I really would recommend elaborate this menu, because what I have realized from many trainings we do, that it's not quite known, this great help which we have in the
Mm.
accessory menu. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, because no matter how loud the phone call is, if the signal to noise ratio is really bad, then your customer will not be happy. Okay. Next question. What about when the clients say they can hear well others when speaking, but people on other side of the call don't hear them good, while the hearing aid users are keeping their phones close enough? Okay, so in this scenario, we have heard some reports about this where the person that the hearing aid user is talking to has difficulty hearing the hearing aid user's voice. So in that case, yeah, what we can definitely do is, it would be ideal if the hearing aid user is in a more quiet place, ideally inside a room would be good, because that way all of these Bluetooth signals are not, when a hearing aid user is outdoors, the Bluetooth signal generally is not as strong because there's no surface for these signals to reflect and to amplify. So what you can tell your customer, your patient, is it will be better if they're having any phone calls, just do it indoors. And hopefully the person at the other end of the line can also benefit from this better audio quality. And later on, Christina, if I may add, this is at the end of the presentation. I will also add 5 of the questions that we were asked before regarding this, and one of the answers might be of interest to you.
Okay, correct. Now the answer has come in that obviously, yes, the settings were in accessory plus 9 dB for the client who reported that the voice is still too soft. And yes, it may be that for a few people the voice is too soft, but I think it also depends a little bit on the phone. And but definitely we should explore it. These
Yes.
menu settings.
And it might be also good to do the hearing test again, if that patient is due for another hearing test, or also make sure that the hearing targets are reached for the low, medium, especially input, and also the loud input by doing a real ear measurement. That way you can definitely try to troubleshoot what is causing this low volume. Okay, Christina, should we move forward?
All right.
I think we
Yes.
answered all.
Yeah, we move on.
All right.
So yes, there are a few connectivity resources which we would like to introduce to you. And Mariel already, she dispatched them in the last webinar. We do have actually these great guides, which can be very, very helpful for all kind of troubleshooting. We have the Sonic guide for the guide for hands-free communication and direct streaming with Mac, all the steps which you should do and all the things which you could rewind. And then we do have the guide of hands-free communication with Sonic hearing aids and Windows PC. And then the third one is the troubleshooting guide for hands-free communication and direct streaming on Android and PCs using LE audio. And Mariel will distribute the three connectivity resources along with the recording and the presentation today. So you may have this already double, but better double than not at all. And then we still do have the compatibility guide on the Sonic Global Connectivity website. So if you go to Sonic Global and then tap in connectivity, then you find a guide which points out which hearing aids are compatible, what types of iPhone. Also, it includes information which iOS devices support hands-free communication and bidirectional streaming to Android smartphones. Right now, the compatibility guide on this website has not been updated with the latest phones and with the latest hearing instruments. So the A1 has not been included yet, but you find Radiant and Radiant SE and the previous instrument, the information should still be available. Now, if you would like to have a certificate about attending this webinar, then you will get your certificate after having a score of 60% correct on the quiz, which we are going to show you in a moment. And then if you would like to have a certificate, please send us your complete name to the email at burnexportnews@demand.com, and then we can issue the certificate for us. We are going to have a next webinar about Sonic A1 and what's actually new, what we can expect until the end of the year. And this will happen sometimes during October, probably mid-October. We will send out the invitations to you as soon as possible. So, of course, it would be lovely if you could attend this webinar as well. Okay, now we hope you all have your phones ready so that you can scan the quiz. So this is the Sonic quiz number 5. If you scan the QR code, then you will see the 5 questions. It's a short quiz and it will not take much time. And if you are able to answer the quiz correctly, then in the end of the year, we will provide A1 hearing instrument or set of A1 hearing instruments to you. So
Yes, and
we will leave this for a moment, so you have time to scan it and take your time to complete the quiz.
Yes, and the scores are added up at the end. So even if you don't get the highest score, you just have to answer every quiz, then your chances of getting an overall final grade would be higher. You know, if you miss one quiz, it's okay. I can send you the link that you can answer again, but it should be available after each recording. So you can also scan the QR code after each recording. Okay. So we have a person who said, I participated last webinar and I got 100%. Congrats. Good job. But I did have a certificate. So remember, you do have to write to burn export news at demand.com. So make sure you send an email to this email address and then write the exact name that you want on the certificate before we can give you. So you have to ask for it. It's not automatic. So the reason why is because, yeah, we have to, of course, take a look at the scores first. And in this case, it's only 5 questions. So if you get 3 correct, that's good enough. Yeah, don't be shy. We don't bite. Okay, so the QR code will be available again at the end. But for now, I will just share some other questions that we've had regarding connectivity. A lot of them are also connected to Samsung phones. So I think this might be interesting for some of you who have a lot of customers using the Samsung phone. Okay. So going to the first question, when will two-way streaming or hands-free communication work again with the Samsung Galaxy phones? If some of you are already trying out the Sonic A1 hearing aids with your Samsung Galaxy phones, I think some of you have experienced issues, particularly if you have a Samsung Galaxy S23 or 24, which initially worked well, but has since had issues sometime March, April. And the reason is because Samsung came out with a lot of updates and particularly focused on security updates. And ever since then, we've had issues with that. We're working with Samsung. But as for now, the Samsung S23 and S24 are currently not compatible with two-way streaming for now. It might change in the future, but for now, that's the thing. And the currently confirmed Android phones, which actually work with two-way streaming, are the following. Google Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, Google Pixel 8 and 8 Pro, Sony Xperia V5G, and Samsung Galaxy A54. And just because some Android phones are not included in this list, that doesn't mean that they don't work with two-way streaming. It could work, but we don't really have a guarantee yet because we are testing out a lot of these Android phones. So if you want to see if it works, it's good to try it out for yourself and then see what your experience is because it's still possible it might work, even if it's not on this list. Later on, I will also send a document called the Updated LE Audio FAQ to tell you guys later more information regarding LE audio and with these Samsung phones. And this one, when is the new Android USB-C adapter coming out? So this is in the pipeline. It is ongoing. We have this new Android adapter, which enables two-way streaming or hands-free communication on Android phones, tablets, and even PCs that have a USB-C outlet. If they don't have any LE audio, if they don't support that, this adapter would be the solution. And it allows for streamed audio and video calls from any Android devices as long as they have USB-C. It is scheduled to come out next year in the first half of the year. So watch out for that. It is coming. Why do the Sonic A1 hearing aids stay connected to the phone even when they are in the charger? And the other rechargeable Sonic hearing aids like Radiant SE, they don't behave the same as the Sonic A1 rechargeable. Because unlike this previous rechargeable hearing aids, Sonic A1s are actually still connected even when they are in the charger. So this means that they can still be programmed, remotely fitted, have their firmware updated, and are still connected to the SoundLink 3 app even when they are in the charger. And we designed this new functionality because sometimes we still need to program and update the firmware even when the battery is low, which is why this is now available with Sonic A1. And while in the charger, there will be no audio coming out of the hearing aids. So let's say you're only trying out the Sonic A1 hearing instruments and then you're playing some music from Spotify. And then you decide to put them on the charger because you want to charge it. But then when you play the music on your phone, you don't hear it coming out of your phone. And that's because it's still connected to your Sonic A1 in the charger. So if you want to move the audio back to your phone, as Christina has suggested, just change the audio input, or you can turn the Bluetooth of the phone off. So the sound will come out of your phone instead of the hearing aid in the charger. So this is something to be aware of. That also includes phone calls. So if you're charging your hearing aid and you're expecting an important phone call, turn the phone Bluetooth off so you can hear it from your phone. When is the Sonic A1 firmware update available to improve Android streaming? So this is to answer one of your questions regarding this issue with the other person not being able to hear the hearing aid user's voice. This Sonic A1 firmware update 1.1.0 has already been available this month, August 8. So with this update, we can expect improvements such as there's a separate streaming pathway for a streaming sound and also the microphone sound from the hearing aid. So that means they interfere with each other less, more stable connection. The next one is improved connection to Android phones. So hopefully this will also resolve that issue where the other person cannot hear your patient. And last would be better sound quality in phone calls and more. So that's good news, and hopefully that resolves your issue. And lastly, you can see the QR code there. So there's a quiz for those who have missed it. This is the last question that we have. In your personal opinion, which phones have less issues with Bluetooth? So generally, Apple phones have the least amount of reported issues with regards to connectivity. We get way more issues with Android phones like Samsung, Huawei, HTC due to security updates, which often causes these connectivity issues. So this is just in our experience. This is what we have observed. We know that not all of your patients can afford an Apple phone, but even if they get an an iPhone 11, that's not the newest out there, but in terms of one-way and two-way communication, you can easily get an iPhone 11 and you have both features working. So yeah, that's just in our experience. Okay, so remember, okay, for those who want the certificate, send me an email. We'll get to you because we have to request someone from the digital team to create the certificate. So yeah, you have to do the quiz and then send me an email in burnexportnews@demand.com. Okay, I think that ends it, Christina. Anything you want to share? Anything more?
No, nothing from it. Now, thank you for joining us for today. So it was very nice always seeing that, yeah, interest is big in our webinars. Hope it was useful. And remember, you will get all the information a bit later on to share with your colleagues who could not attend today. So thank you
Exactly.
for being here. Wish you a wonderful day wherever you are.
Ciao.
Ciao.